Looks like we are live on Facebook. I'm Jake Duesenberg with Action for Liberty. We're broadcasting on Alpha News' Facebook page, and this is the First Tuesday Conservatives. Scott, I guess, will be in the background here. He's really the head of the show, but I guess he disappears. I don't know why he disappears. I guess I'm taking over First Tuesday Conservatives. So what do we want to do, Jane? Let's have fun with this, right?
I don't know what to do with this right now. You're here to talk to restaurant owners, and I am one.
And we might have Larvita joining us, but for those who don't know, you are here. Well, we don't need your video.
I didn't want to be on video.
You got to be on video.
No.
These humble heroes. All right. First of all, to the audience that's watching, this is Larvita on the screen right here. Larvita comes from Lynn, Minnesota. That's down in Marshall. And the lady I was chatting with here before Larvita joined us is Jane Moss. And if
Hi, Jane.
I love you, Jane.
We all haven't seen each other for like 3 days because we all actually took Christmas off. That's the crazy thing. We're so busy. I talk to Jane and Larvita probably 6 times a day each, right?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden we're not chatting because we observed Christ's birth and the eve of that, and then let's roll it right into the weekend, right?
Yeah. I missed you.
I missed you too. Let's start with Larvita here. Catch people up. I know a lot of people probably watched what we did last week, and I was talking about this big battle, and Larvita was the first on stage with us back in, what is that, the Friday after Thanksgiving. And I had chatted with you just a week beforehand. We didn't know each other before then, and got to know you real well. And
now we're besties.
Now we're besties, right? Even though we've met only one time in person at the Capitol, which is just that's 2020. As you get used to people, you get to know them on Zoom. I never would have thought I would have been using Zoom like this, but that's what we do now. And Larvita said, this is unconstitutional. This is illegal what the governor is doing, and I'm not going to shut down. So tell people about your story.
Wow, there's a lot to tell, so I don't even know where to begin. If you want me to start from after Thanksgiving, that's fine. So we had just decided to open up again because I have a dance studio gymnastics area. And so I was a little leery. I was just worn out with this whole thing. Like, what are we going to do? And so we had literally just opened the gymnastics and getting ready to open the restaurant again and get everything going. And so we're open for a good 2 weeks. Then, the governor comes down again and says, oh, you guys have to be closed. And I'm like, wait, what? I should also say that, we are part of Southwest School of Dance and Prestige Gymnastics, and we were suing the governor back in April. So we've been fighting this fight since the beginning. But the more the governor spoke, the more, I was just like, what are we thinking as Americans? Everything he's doing, everything he's saying, everything that's coming out of his mouth is unconstitutional, unlawful. What was the new one, Jake? Unlawful, unethical is that I say. And
immoral in many ways.
Immoral, right? Yeah.
Right.
And he gets to pick he called us non-essential workers from the beginning. And to me, again, I always say, we are essential. All life is essential. All businesses are essential. We need to make a living for our families. And so I had reached out, I reached out to Jake, Action for Liberty. And I said, I'm opening. We've been open. We're staying open, but I don't want to do it by myself. And so I shouldn't say by myself. When I say myself, I meant me and my girls. I wanted people to be there supporting me and, not that I didn't have to.
I got to stop you.
Yeah.
So, first time I chat with Larvita, right? She's about to break a rule, not a law, a rule by our supreme leader, Tim Walz. And it says that she could be thrown in jail for a year. She's already been threatened loosely. It says she could be fined $25,000 a day. And her big concern is, well, I'm going to do this, but I just want people to show up. And she was afraid no one's going to show up. I'm like, are you kidding me? Now you're not worried about the jail time? You're worried that no one's going to show up? I'm like, we'll help you out with that one.
Yeah, and so they've been such a blessing. And I was like, okay. So now, to me, this is easy now. I'm not alone. So I'm like, before I would have to be hiding, like I'm open, but so no. So, we've had the cease and desist order. They came and they took my license. But on the same day they gave me the cease and desist order, they brought my license back. Southwest Health and Human Services gave me my license back. So I'm really happy with that. And so then we had a court hearing, and I don't know if everyone knows about that. So if I'm talking too much, tell me.
Yep. So let's go to Jane, because then we want
Yes.
to catch everyone up on the legal battles, because you guys kind of divert a little bit when it comes to that. But Larvita is, unbeknownst to us, Jeremiah up at the Iron Waffle in Nisswa never shut down. So I call him the OG. But Larvita was the first to emerge on the big statewide and actually even national stage, because she was on Fox News, I think, twice that following week. But Jane, you had heard about us. You were following us already.
Right.
I think you signed a recall Walz petition.
Yep.
And you heard about Larvita, and then you came into the equation here. Tell us about that.
I did. Well, I had wanted to open the first shutdown. Nobody was on board with me in my little town, and I'm just thinking, well, there's just not something right about this, but knew I couldn't get my workforce back at that time. But then I heard about Larvita. I went down to meet her, and her energy just infused my energy. That girl was on fire, and knowing that this woman opened up and she's got 4 kids, 4 daughters, I thought, I have to do this. And going into it, you think you know all the ramifications, you think you know all the consequences, but what really is astounding is the support, the amazing support you get. But also what's amazing is how quickly you get sued.
Mhm.
Yes.
The paperwork that was sent out to me came within 2 days.
Mhm.
180 some pages that were copies of copies. So they already had planned that they were going to make an example of Larvita and myself. So yes,
And so,
I'm sorry.
so it's really important for people to understand the process here, because a lot of business owners are probably watching this and wondering if they should do this. And it's a tough decision to make, right?
It is very tough, yes.
But that's why we think you guys are heroic, because you know these risks and you're doing it anyhow. They start with threats, right? They start with calls to saying, you want to rethink this? Larvita, you told me about, they were calling you every day. Hey, are you sure you're going to do this? We don't want you to do this, right?
Yes.
And they're so petty. When a lot of businesses across the state opened up a couple weeks ago, they must have had some low-level staff, and they were making just incredibly ridiculous threats like, well, I don't care who your attorney is, our attorneys are better. It's like, what? That's what they're saying to these people. We'll fine you so much you'll go out of business, as if there's another alternative here, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
And so they start with that. Then the formal cease and desist comes from the Department of Health, and that's what both of you guys experienced, correct?
Yes.
Right.
We see some diversion here. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll take a liquor license away. Jane's case, Larvita, they took the county or multi-county health department took your food license away. They
Yes.
get it back then like a week later. So we've seen a little bit difference. I think in both your cases, you had law enforcement show up to deliver you the executive order. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just in case you can't read, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You probably know it much better than them.
And they apologize.
Right.
Yeah.
They
Yeah, that's-
apologize.
That's the thing we've learned. Law enforcement's kind of on our side on this issue, right?
Yeah.
And then what they'll do is they'll start the formal process. And in the case of both of you, they got an ex parte restraining order against you guys, a temporary restraining order. So essentially you have to stop by court order what you're doing. Did that stop you guys?
No.
You guys kept going on, and they sued you for a permanent injunction. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So this is where we have a diversion. Now, Larvita's in southern Minnesota, and Jane's way up. I mean, I traveled up there. It's way up there, Ninth Circuit. Larvita gets referred to the court, the Ramsey County Court. So it's a Second Circuit. And Jane actually is up in her Ninth Circuit Court. So you're in front of a Ramsey County judge, Larvita. How did that go?
Surprisingly, I thought I had a couple of friends here. We had it at the restaurant, so I invited people to come down and watch it with me and be in the meeting. And so during the meeting, the Attorney General's office, you know, they're arguing why the reservations should be allowed to stay open.
Mhm.
And she's stating that, you know, they need to take care of their families. They don't say taxes, but they need to make revenue for their government. And, you know, I'm in shock. I'm actually jumping up and down like, yes, they made the case for us, because this is what I'm thinking. They made the case. We're good to go. And so then the judge, you know, is like in shock, because that's our case. So she said to her, isn't that everything that Larvita's fighting for? Small businesses are fighting for. So I'm thinking, yes, she's on our side. This is done. She's throwing it out. And so that's why, you know, the next day when she gave us the ruling, I was totally in shock. That, you know, like, how can you rule against us? How is that even possible when you clearly see that the state doesn't even have an argument? They're arguing what we're saying. So how can you agree with them? You know, just try to shut us down. That tells you how they're not even going off of the Constitution. And I had wrote a statement to when we had the hearing for this, what is it called, sentencing, when she was giving me what my fines or if I was going to go to jail or not. You know, I had written out a statement, you know, clearly putting it out there that she swore an oath to the Constitution, and that she's supposed to uphold the Constitution, and no mandate, no any law. It doesn't even matter if a law comes into effect and it's doesn't agree with the Constitution, it's unlawful. Do we not understand that? The Constitution trumps exactly trumps anything else. And so, and
your rights, which don't come from the Constitution, they exist because your creator gave them to you.
Exactly.
Some of them are actually protecting the Constitution. What's really interesting is equal protection under the law was thrown out in your court case because, you know, they clearly established that the laws governing casinos, which, you know, you could say that it's sovereign nations, but quite frankly, we all know that the government still mandates and still regulates activities on tribal lands.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Jake, because you know that the tribal lands, they have to get their liquor license. The distributors are from the state, so they could stop that. And actually, there's a U.S. Code 23280, if I remember correctly, that clearly states if there's a health, not even for Americans, actually, this is for reservations, that the governor has the power to shut down a reservation when there's a health threat. You know, in our Constitution, there is no health threat thing that says you can shut us down. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that. People try to make like there's something, but no pandemic, nothing can supersede the Constitution. Right. Where on the reservation, since they are a sovereign nation, they have their own codes, and the code clearly states that for health reasons, they can shut them down. So,
all right, so let's talk about Jane's case. So I think it was at least a week after Larvita, you got your ruling, and they made you wait a long time. It was argued on a Friday, and I think the ruling came on a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Correct. Came on Tuesday at 2:10. Basically, he fought the same thing: the equal rights, the constitutionality of it. Prior to that, the Alcohol Gambling Enforcement Division had been trying to call me when I first opened up on the 9th. They couldn't get a hold of me. I pray to God, I wish I had not answered the phone on the Sunday, but that's when they suspended my liquor license for 60 days. My hearing was actually scheduled for the 16th, which gave my attorney no time hardly to prepare a brief. They canceled it, rescheduled it for the 18th. Took her until the Tuesday following to render her decision that we were denied to be able to stay open.
All right.
Basically, his authority was to create this executive order had the full effect of the law.
Which anyone that has a basic understanding of the Constitution and the rule of law would say that is so utterly false. But a couple things that were really interesting in your case, Jane. They argued not just that the casinos were open, they also argued that you're a border town, East Grand Forks. You could go 300 yards across the river, and North Dakota is wide open. They also argued another interesting thing. Not only tribal lands are open, but if you go fly at MSP Airport, you can get right up to a restaurant or bar and order as if nothing's happened.
Exactly.
You go to a school, the cafeterias are open. If you go to some of these big corporations with big campuses, they've got cafeterias open. Somehow the science no longer exists in those protected zones, right? So they
Exactly.
argue that. One of the fascinating things that I heard the Attorney General's office argue for, because remember when Larvita was referencing, they got to feed their families because the tribal areas, that's the Attorney General's office saying that, right? As if that doesn't exist for Larvita. Attorney General's office argued in your case against your lawyer's point on the Archdiocese of New York going against Cuomo, because that was a decision that went in favor of the Archdiocese.
Right.
I couldn't believe this. I wrote it down, and the Attorney General said, well, that's actually a fundamental right. And I was just like,
But our
yes,
government-
that's a fundamental right, but so is earning a living. So is operating a business. This is
But
how
again, the problem is, she said that's a fundamental right. But again, our governor, did he not close down churches here? But that's a fundamental right. Okay. But so why didn't the Attorney General arrest the governor or say that he could not do that? That's what the Attorney General is there for. He's not to do the whims of the governor. He's supposed to do the whims of the people. And if he can say in there that the governor was wrong, which basically that's what he's saying, because the governor did shut down churches and limit us to worshiping, singing, praising our creator of the universe. So again, they pick and choose when it's the right time to say what they want to say instead of following the Constitution all the way through.
By the way, Walmart lines, even if you're in them for 40 minutes, totally fine. The science is there. We have a question Sharon asks, so what is the next step legally? And I want to get to that. But one of the most interesting things about your two cases is the taking part, right? The government taking. They're taking something from you, and there's damage. There's actually damage being done to you guys. What they're trying to argue is the science, right? They're trying to say that by opening your bar and restaurant, you will create harm to the overall population. This is what these judges are believing. They could never prove something like that. They can never prove that. You can't prove somebody got COVID at Boardwalk Bar and Grill or Haven's Gardens. You know what they can prove without a reasonable doubt? They can look at Jane's finances and see exactly the harm Governor Walz's order is doing to her business. They can see exactly what's doing to Larvita. It's unbelievable. Any other time in the courts, this would be a open shut case, but apparently that doesn't exist.
But Jane,
Jane,
sorry, Jane.
That's all right.
Were you saying something?
Well, I just want to say that one thing that really baffles a lot of owners, and I know everybody's questioning this, but this emergency. If it were a true emergency, like a tornado or the rioting and looting, civil unrest, or if it was a nuclear hazard, which pandemics are not in the reason to have an emergency. Why not shut the borders down so that you can't leave Minnesota? Why is our governor leaving the state and coming back? Is he quarantining for 14 days after he gets back from his vacation in Florida? It's so absurd to me that we're not chaining these people and bringing them into our place of business. They're coming voluntarily. And so this is not an emergency. If it were, if it's a tornado, people aren't going to come to the area. But they're coming because they want someplace to gather. I am not responsible for your health. If you decide to come to my place of business, that is your choice. And
that's a good point, Jane. Like they're focusing all this legal action on you guys, but you're just opening a business. It's the patrons like me that come there, right? Aren't we the super spreaders? Aren't we the ones that are really disobeying the governor's orders? But
yes,
it's too hard to target us. And that's the other thing. And we need to pivot this conversation because, what's really interesting about you two is, and why we think you guys are so heroic is because you guys aren't deterred. Jane had to shut down because she was waiting for this court ruling. Larvita just pushed through the whole thing. She's like, I'm never shutting down. But you guys just don't get deterred by this. You're like, I'm not following these illegal orders. And so when Sharon asks, what's the next step legally? Do either one of you guys think that you'll get justice in the court system?
I want to say something. I want to go back for 1 minute.
Sure.
You know, you were saying, about the science. Actually, their science that they've done has proven that restaurants and bars are not the super spreaders of COVID. So no, even going off of their science, I think they said it's less than 1% that they've done from their tracing, that it wasn't from the restaurants. So sorry, but going back to the next step, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's not a scientific study either. We've had multiple confirmations. I believe even Alpha News reported on this, that what's happening is when the Department of Health calls individuals who test positive, they're not inquiring about retail stores. They're inquiring about bars and restaurants. Now that is not a scientific poll. That is leading somebody. That is pushing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that is so wrong. But what is the next step legally? Do you guys actually trust that you'll get justice served through the court system here in Minnesota?
Who do you want to go first?
Either one of you.
My attorney has filed an appeal, an expedited appeal, so to keep them on notice that we haven't given up. So we're continuing to fight. Still waiting on my liquor license hearing. So right now, my liquor license has been suspended, as well as my buyer's card, as well as my restaurant license. So I'm not able to even purchase anything to go forward. But no, as far as, I don't think we're going to see any justice in the system.
Jane, Larvita, what about you?
You know, the truth is, right now they're fining me $250 a day every time that I'm open. And I would say, do I believe in the court system? I would say no, but I do believe in the American people. And it's up to the American people to stand together and demand that Jane gets her license back. That's the only way things are going to change. We can't sit back and just allow them to try to run over us, run over Jane, and think that's acceptable and allowed. No, until the people come together and say, no, this is not right, the courts are not going to change. And we have to demand that they change and do the right thing. Clearly, we know in the Constitution that we have a right to make a living for our families. This is not breaking the law, and they cannot use us as policemen to do a job of bullying other people to come into our restaurants. So do I believe in the court system? Not so much. But do I believe in good people standing up and doing something? Yes, because I did get my license back. And they had to go against what the State Department said because they gave me my license back. So that's a tough question. I'm sorry, I don't ever have just a yes or no.
Well, the other thing is, and we'll get to this a little bit more further in this discussion, but we do have some options. People can go to actionforliberty.com and sign up to end Walz emergency powers on that petition, because there is a way to solve this if we can't get it done in the court system. That's my little teaser, because we got a great question. One person's asking, what can people do to help out restaurant owners with this tyranny? We went on a tour across Minnesota, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Going to these restaurants means the world to you guys. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yes, and yes.
What have tips been like for your workers?
Well, for my group, and that was my whole reason in the beginning, was when my employees were coming to me in desperation. And I had to look in the mirror and say, Jane, there's nobody there to help but you. And 4 days that I was open, they had hope. You could see their countenance change. People were going up to my servers and going into my cooks and just handing them money. And they didn't, their faces were, they had hope, and they were able to provide for, if they had children at Christmas, they knew their rent was going to be paid. They knew that they could make their car payment. Whatever their need was met because of the kindness, the support, the outpouring of love from all these people that came in to our place of business.
And that's what we saw. We saw amazing tips and packed restaurants. In fact, the media wanted to use that as a hit on this overall movement because now there have been many businesses that have opened up. We're not even tracking all of them, but Lisa Monet down in Lakeville, Lisa Hansen and Albert Lee, like I said before, Jeremiah and the Iron Waffle, Greg up at Cornerstone Cafe in Monticello, and many, many more that have opened up. And it's amazing. They're just getting huge customers. Just doing business alone with the amount of customers that are coming is helpful, but then very generous tips right at a time when people need it. And Larvita, that was the first thing you were worried about is you were afraid people wouldn't come. What has it been like for you?
It's been wonderful. The calls, the texts, messages, emails that I've gotten, people coming in, just stopping in just to say hi. We're just glad that you're open. You know, some people just stopped in today. They didn't even eat. They just wanted to come in and say hi and just have a quick chat. And, you know, so it's been just refreshing, and it's been really nice knowing that people are supporting us, standing with us, and it's really nice.
Awesome. All right. So here's a question from Brad Ganser. We like Brad here. Brad actually met Larvita. He was on our ground team when you opened up on Friday. So, and Dave Hughes did it for us up in Jane's area. It was nice because Action for Liberty is all throughout the state. He asked, will we get any help when the legislature is seated in January? So great. It's almost like I paid him to give me that softball there. So that's great.
I was thinking that too.
Because we're all wondering what is the next step? Well, if we can't get this solved in the court system, and a lot of people, I mean, that's probably one of the most common questions I get is, what about the courts? What about this? I've been seeing this video from Pamela Popper, been sent to me by multiple people today. Like, well, what about this argument in the courts? Like, we can't trust these rogue gangsters. They take an oath of office. They're supposed to do things the right way. They're supposed to be impartial. They're not. They're clearly not. So the real remedy is at the legislature. And all we have to do is get the Minnesota House now to pass the End Walz Emergency Powers Resolution. We need 4 Democrats to get on board on January 5th. We've had 6 already vote for it before. So we were able to take out 4 Democrats at Action for Liberty back in November. So the math is on our side now. Now the real pressure, now the real vote matters. But we can actually solve this thing once and for all up at the Capitol come January 5th. And I think, you know, I hope you guys agree that is the next step here is let's just make sure that he doesn't even have the ability to do this to us in the future. Yes.
You know, I have reached out to our mayor again, to our city council, because of Joe Diner. You know, you came up and visited Joe. Great kid. I've reached out to our mayor because he continually says he supports what we're doing, but there's no action. Mm-hmm. There's no action whatsoever. And I was looking at this mayor in Sandy, Oregon, who went to his governor and said, we're going to open up. If we don't hear from you by January 1st, my town will open up. That's what I want to hear from my mayor who supports me, supposedly. You know, I just want them to say, you know, when your city says they support you, then show me some action that you're going to support me. Don't let me hang out there by myself, but I will continually call him until he meets with me and Joe, and we get some action done on this.
Mm-hmm. If Governor Walz was on this Zoom call with us, right, which we could only wish. I actually tried getting patched in on a call with Attorney General Keith Ellison last week. But didn't work out. But if Governor Walz was on this call, what would you guys say to him? Larvita.
Oh.
Jane, go first. Let me think about that.
You know,
we want it raw, Larvita. Tell us now. First thing that comes to your mind. It's like, it's not very Christian to me.
What I would like to say to him is that he needs to either step down as governor, or he should be tried for treason, because what he's done to the Minnesotans is treasonous. I mean, how many people have lost everything. It's not okay. How many people are still losing everything? Suicide rates are going up. They don't want to talk about all these things that are happening to our children, that are happening, you know, to people that have fought to survive, to live the American dream of owning their own business. And he's just destroyed that. He's destroyed so many lives, and he needs to be held accountable.
Right. I think he needs to sit down with business owners. I have never seen him sit down with business owners and say, and show us the science behind what he's doing. I want to say that knife that you stuck in my back, you just twisted it when you told Minnesotans they could have outdoor dining in December and January. To me, that was the ultimate abuse, to just twist that knife.
Right. I feel like he's laughing at us. I mean, for him to
That's
say
how I
something
felt
like that,
too.
I first thought it was a joke. I didn't even believe it. I was like, this
I
is
know.
not real. I mean, I just feel like it's a joke to him. He's laughing at us and saying, let's see what else I can do that people are just going to go and fall in line and do. It's going to be something outlandish, something so outrageous that most people would be like, yeah, no, that's not real. But then it's like, oh, that's real. You can't have 10 people in your home. What?
Can't have somebody from outside your household in your yard, which was another rule. All rules, by the way. You know, so people can go to actionforliberty.com to learn more about what we're doing. But our first order of business is to get rid of his emergency powers, to save these people, save people from lockdowns. And you're right, the suicide rates are up, depression's up. We've got to stop these lockdowns. The science does not back these lockdowns at all. But I think you guys got an interesting point. I think it's kind of treasonous what he's doing. I believe he should be impeached for abuse of power.
I agree.
Exactly.
We already got a representative-elect ready to introduce the articles of impeachment on him.
Great. You know, and if he really cared about us, give up your salary and donate it like our president does.
That same representative happens to have a bill that.
Yes, I know.
That's Eric Mortensen. He was our star candidate, and Eric Mortensen just introduced a bill, and Alpha News wrote about this, that would suspend the pay of the governor and actually all legislators during emergency powers. What a great idea. And not I mean, suspend meaning they don't get it back. It's not like they get it back after the thing's over. They don't get it. So, you know, I don't remember if it was you, Jane. I don't think it was. I want to say it was somebody else. Maybe it was Joe, but they were being threatened by the Attorney General's office, a staffer, and they asked the question, "Are you getting paid?" And the staffer's like, "Yeah, I'm getting paid." Then you have nothing to tell me about, because I can't earn a living right now, but you get to go on living the way you always do. You don't understand the struggles. Isn't that
No. Yeah, how many federal agencies or employees have been laid off?
right? They just keep growing.
I know.
Karen asks, who are the targeted Dems for January to vote with Republicans? It's a great question. All right, if you guys got it, pen and paper handy, ready? This is the first time we're telling people. Representative Paul Marquardt, just south of you, Jane. He's over in Moorhead. Representative Julie Sandsteed. Representative Dave Lislegard. Those two are Iron Range Democrats. And Representative Rob Eklund. That's up in the Boundary Waters all the way over to Grand Marais. So Marquardt, Lislegard, Sandsteed, and Marquardt. Now, they've all voted at one point against Walz's emergency powers. They need to stay firm. We need 4 Democrats. Organizations confirmed, I shouldn't say our organization. The constituents have confirmed that both Gene Pulowski, so down in Winona, and Mike Sundin, which is up by Cloquet, those 2 legislators, 2 Democrats, are going to vote the same way, okay? Now, right now, I'm telling you some math here. I'm telling you the inside info, but it's not like the Democrat establishment doesn't know the same thing. Right now, Governor Walz is calling these Democrats. He's going, hey, man, you know that committee you always wanted to be on, or that you wanted the gavel? And we can give that to you. You know, you didn't raise enough money last campaign season. We can help you out. You know what overpowers that? Angry voters. Bunch of angry voters. So those legislators need to hear from you guys, especially if you're a constituent. If you are a business in that district affected by the shutdown, you need to contact Paul Marquardt, Dave Lizagard, Julie Sandsteed, Rob Eklund, because it is that important that they hear your story and they know exactly what it's doing to Minnesota. We can end this. We can end this right now, assuming these rhino Republicans in the Senate don't screw us over in the end. But we've been able to get them to vote the right way. So that's what you can do, Sharon, and that's a great question. I'm trying to read this list here. Someone says he should step down or get tried for treason. I think they agree with you guys. I must be missing the other two questions here. So what are some, looks like it's in this box here. Come on, Jake, act like you've been on Zoom before. This isn't a question. Daniel Boone says, stay the course, push harder. Walz is a crook. His actual name's not Daniel Boone. I asked this guy the other day. I think he's on your email list.
I thought you were giving us a quote from Daniel. Okay.
Yeah, you could believe that, right?
Yeah.
Where do you go to sign the petition? Ask Linda, actionforliberty.com. You'll see on our front page is Larvita. You can stand with Larvita. It's the same petition, goes the same place. Or you could just sign the In Walz Mercy Powers petition there. What else do you ladies want to say to the great folks out here in Minnesota?
I want to thank everyone for the support we've received. Please show it to other restaurants that are considering opening or they have opened. Support them, encourage them. The emails, the texts, the phone calls, you have no idea how it strengthens us. It pushes us. It helps us to fight harder.
Awesome. Larvita?
I just want to agree with Jane. What she said was perfect. And we all have to remember that sometimes it's just one little action. It doesn't have to be something big or huge or even anything that you think is great. But just taking one little action, for me, calling up people is very hard. So even just doing what Jake said, to call these representatives, to let them know where you stand and what needs to happen, goes a long way. So for me, it's just thanking everyone for being there with us and just taking a stand, one little step forward, will get us all where we want to be, back in the America that we love.
Exactly.
All right, one last thing before we part ways, because I think we had a pretty good audience here. I can't see the numbers, but I was hearing from Scott, it was doing well. Larvita, you were going to be on Tucker Carlson's show. You pre-recorded. I was telling Jane this story, and they sent down a limo, right?
Yeah. It wasn't it was a taxi.
Town car or taxi.
That's why I love
limo
you.
sounds better.
Oh, sorry. Okay, limo.
They said limo.
Sorry.
To drive you up to CBS, right? Which is, I always find that funny about Fox News. They tape at WCCO. But somehow you ended up in a car by yourself. What happened?
Oh, yeah. Well, the guy comes in, and one, he was not very nice. He was pretty rude. So I get in the car, and he said, "Oh, you have to wear a mask." So I'm like, sorry, I can't wear a mask. I even have a health exemption. I'm not going to wear a mask. And he said, "Oh, well, it's up to him to decide if he wants to take a person who doesn't want to wear a mask." And I said, "Oh, okay, thank you." So I grabbed my bag, got out of the car, started my car, got in, and then I drove. I should tell you, I hate driving. 3 hours, yes. I almost backed out. I was like, I'm not gonna do it. And I said, "Oh, suck it up." I talked to myself, suck it up. Who cares? One little step. I talk to myself too. Same thing I tell everyone else. One little step, just go do it. And so then
you're ever wondering about Larvita, if she's really truly who she is,
Yes, she
will
is.
drive up in the snow and ice 3 hours one way because of the stupid mask mandate. But you never got fooled by this thing, right?
No.
Not about the science, not about public health, is it?
No. We clearly see that when they tell you to stop praising. For me, the biggest thing, even our business is one, but when they try to shut down a church, to say that we can't worship, that we can't sing, you knew that everyone should have known then that it was much more than a virus. And I hope it's opening people's eyes, you know, to see that what they're doing is not for the American people. It's not for us. They're not fighting for us. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which we vote them in. That's the sad part. We put these people in power, and now it's time to take them out of power and get to where we need to be. So, yeah.
We can't impeach Walz. 2022 is going to be very interesting.
Yes,
We're
it
not going
will.
anywhere, are we? All right. For everyone that's watching, and people that will watch in the future, and then the people that are joining us on the Zoom session, we all thank you, Jane and Larvita, for what you're doing, and all the other businesses that are doing this. It means the world to us. And, you know, you guys get accused of being selfish. And Jane, you know, in your case, you're doing this for your workers. In Larvita, you're doing this for your daughters. But you're also doing this for us. I wish I owned a gym or a restaurant I could be there with you. I don't. I talked to my team, and they thought it'd be a little gimmick if I bought a gym during this time. Kind of wanted to.
Get it at a good price.
Yeah, I know you could really get it.
Sorry.
I'm in the acquisition business right now.
Mhm.
But honestly, you know, it's tough for a lot of us too. Lockdowns affect everybody, especially
Yes.
our youth who get out a lot more. We want to go get a burger and a beer. You know, didn't take a lot of leg pulling to get Mortensen to join me for 24 hours and an 800-mile trip. Because, you know, he wanted to feel normal too, right? And I want to feel normal. I like to grab a beer and a burger with a friend. You guys are doing a service to us, and we want to thank you for that, because it's actually very important. I don't think that's a story that's being told enough in the media. So on behalf of all these Minnesotans who are also disobeying Governor Walz, he's got a problem in his hand. There's thousands, tens of thousands of us doing this. We want to thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, I'm going to sign off. Go to actionforliberty.com, learn more about us, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.